All right, guys, we're here with David Richter of, the book. I know him from the book, Profit First in Real Estate, but he does a lot of other things. And David has been through, well, I say hundreds, like many hundreds of real estate deals. So we're going to talk through what he's done and give some amazing actionable steps today. But first, let's just talk about like kind of your beginning and who you are, David. Give us the 30 seconds of who you are, and then we'll talk about where you started in real estate.
Yeah, so 30 seconds of who I am. I am David Richter. I did write Profit First for Real Estate Investing, which is a sub-book of Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. And then I am the owner of Simple CFO Solutions, which helps real estate investors make, spend, and keep more money. To make sure you know where it's all flowing and going, your cash, so that way at the end of the day, you can actually keep more of it. And then as far as my journey, I started back in college. I got the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I was off to the races. So that's kind of how I got started. But there's a 30-second overview going from real estate investor to now, business owner in the making sure that people know what they're doing with their money.
Awesome. And I say 30 seconds because let's be honest, nobody really cares about who we are these days.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Find us. If they want to know who you are, it's in the cover of the book, right?
Exactly.
Really cool fact you just said that not many people do, but that you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in college and actually listened, and it made an effect on you in college. Yeah. It's funny, when I started investing, when I found Rich Dad, Poor Dad 6 years after my first real estate investment.
Okay.
And I told my brother about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember reading that back in college." I was like, well, "Why didn't you do anything?"
That's great. Yeah.
So
I definitely took action. I was like, I don't want to just keep reading, because that book led to other books in real estate, and that was during a job that I had in college, and I'm like, it was a machine job, so I could just sit there and read. But then I said, how do I find a deal? Well, this was 2012. So, the recession had just come through, and we had, there was a bunch of deals on the market. So I found it through a realtor for my first deal. They were a dime a dozen back then, and, fixed it up. And it was a great deal too. So this is the Deal Finder podcast. I literally went to a realtor that I knew in my church and said, can you find a fixer-upper? Can you find something for me? I don't want a fully renovated house. I want to find something that needs work. And she did, within a matter of probably a week or two, started sending me just a lot of off-market deals. And I finally found one that was near me, because for my first deal, I wanted to do one that was in my backyard almost. Like I could drive within 5 minutes of it to track on the progress of the property. So that's where I found one. It was in my city. It was 5 minutes from the house I was living in at that time. And I said, okay, let's take it down. So took it down, put about 25 or 30 grand into it, and then I rented it first. So I was able to check on it during that time that it was being updated, and then from there, it turned out great, and I'm like, this is awesome. So then I rented it for a little bit. Then it turned into the first house I lived in, and with my family. Wow. So because this was, college time, and then I got married during that time as well too. So that was the first house we moved into. Then from there, that 2 years later, after we lived in it for 2 years, because we knew the tax law, and because if you live in a house 2 out of 5 years, it's your personal residence, when you sell it, there's no capital gains. So we moved out of it and then found another house at that point, I was with a company that we were doing like 25 deals a month, like wholesale, fix and flip, turnkeys. And I found a house through them and paid them and gave them a profit. Like I wanted to be fair to them, but they also found me a good deal that I was able to fix and flip. And well, I say fix and flip. I fixed it up and then lived in that one, but then rented out the old house. So moved out of that one, but I didn't just rent it. I lease optioned the first property. So I got a lease, but then I also gave that tenant an option to purchase the property as well too and be the first in line. So it turns out this tenant was super tenant. So if you talk about Deal Finder, there's more than just the deal, the actual physical property. Because if you go into the rental space, another good deal you want is a good tenant. Because you don't want a body filling the place. You want an actual person that's going to be responsible. A responsible, mature adult, if you can find one. So I actually hired someone because of the connections I had at that point in real estate. I didn't want to vet the people. I didn't want to market. So I paid someone to market, I paid someone to vet people, and I paid the guy, like his normal typical fee. Like if he found someone, he took like the first month's rent, and then that was it. And I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
So then he took like the deposit from them, and then I was able to pay him, and then got the first month's rent as well. So I still walked away with, hey, I can still pay the first month's mortgage, and then also, then build up the deposit from there. Then that's where that tenant 6 months later, because this guy found him and he was an incredible tenant, the guy cashed me out on the lease option. So he actually went and got a loan and actually cashed me out. The thing that's funny about that was I was working with this company. We had about 80 lease options in our portfolio at that time, and like 2 had ever cashed us out. So like the statistics are very low for people cashing out because it takes a while to rebuild your credit, to go through that process, to go through the MLO. Like you have to actively work towards it. Well, that whole 6 months he had worked towards it. So that was another deal I found, but that was through someone else vetting it and knowing what to look for. And he found super tenant, and then 6 months later, I had tax-free, capital gains in my pocket to go out and do another deal. So then I, bought 2 more deals from there and bought 2 more rentals. So that was the first deal. But then my second deal was finding it from the actual company I was working with, because then I knew the ins and outs, and I had the cheat codes. Like I could look at the property in our CRM and say, where is it? How much did they purchase it for? Like what would they be willing to sell it? Would I be willing to buy it, as an employee, and, to build my rental portfolio and give them the wholesale fee that they wanted. So it worked out there that I was able to do that, which I tell people all the time that ask me, because I go to a lot of events and speak on Profit First and stuff, and they say, where do I start? And I always tell them, if you have any skill whatsoever, if you can talk on the phone, or if you can put up signs, or if you could do something to add value to a real estate company, can you go work with them, at the beginning, maybe even for free, and tell them the trade-off is I want to learn this area of real estate. If you find a mature business owner, they're going to say, you know what? Sure, I'd love to take you under my wing, and I also love to, utilize any skills you have right now, and then I'll teach you what's going on behind the scenes. So that's what I did with that first company. But then 8 months later, when I was, just out of college, the guy offered me a full-time job at that real estate company, and then for the next 5 years, I got to see 850 deals done between rentals, turnkeys, wholesale. So that was like a huge crash course, because I got to sit in so many seats and see all of those deals done where I felt confident. I could do a subject to deal. I could do a wholesale. I knew what contractors to look for and not to look for. Like I had so much knowledge from that in the real estate world that it was priceless. It was better than any book I had read. It was better than any conference I had attended, was actually being a part of that. And then really not competing with them during that time. I didn't go out and start my own wholesale. What I saw was, hey, there's a deal. Okay, I want to buy a rental from here, and I want to negotiate the best terms for them and for me. So if I pay a little more, can I put less down at the closing table? That second house, I only put $3,000 down for the second house, but I paid them a little bit more. I just added more to my loan, but it left enough for them to make enough spread and for me to cash flow and for me to have as little cash out of my pocket. So there's another way that most people never really talk about is especially if you're first getting into it, everyone thinks they have to slog it out. They have to be the one to figure it out. You probably right now have someone in your hometown or near your hometown that knows how to get deals and is always looking for great people to work with that could add value to their company. And that is probably a responsible enough owner to know that even if you go out on your own, they're still going to be confident enough in their marketing and in their team that that's fine. Okay, they have the abundance mentality. So that was one way. So I don't know if a lot of people talk about that, but that's how I found it, and that was an incredible journey for me. That's also what springboarded me into what I do today, because while I was doing the deals with them and going to different masterminds and events, something that kept popping up over and over again was that once people got past that first deal and created a company and it started to snowball, and now they're doing one a month or like one every other month, or 2, 3, 4, 5, like they started to scale the company, they were running into cash flow problems. And they were like, hey, I'm doing these deals, but I feel broke. What the heck is happening? Like I'm doing $1 million, but I'm spending 1.1. It's like, what crazy. The heck? So that's where it also catapulted me into what I feel like, honestly, is my life's calling. at this point in my life right now to truly open up for people to know this is how much I've made, this is where I'm spending it, and this is how much I'm keeping. Like having those clear numbers, because we go into real estate, and the reason I did, after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, the reason I went into real estate was to find the deal and have those deals provide a lifestyle and to be able to give and to be able to do the things that was my purpose in life. So that's where a lot of people don't get to fulfill their purpose because there's no profit. But profit unlocks that purpose for people. So that to me was also another thing, was finding that first deal snowballed into finding the second deal through the company that I was working with, getting that education, getting that total of like, how do I find the deals? How do I do different types of deals? Honestly, until I found out too, like, hey, I like the numbers. I mean, if you can see me, if you're just listening to this, you won't understand. But if you see a picture of me on the book or whatever, you'll see like, hey, he looks like he would like the numbers. Like I like the numbers. And then I figured out too that I like being able to help people understand their story, that the business numbers tell their story, and it unlocks so much for them. It unlocks so much power to put in your hands. Like, where should I spend my money that's coming in to get the biggest return and have extra at the end of the day? Not at the end of the year, or not when I just, retire someday, because that's the business owner mindset that gets into a lot of people of like, hey, maybe one day in the future I'll be rich and when I sell all my properties, but then they forget about today. And you know what? You go from a W-2 job living paycheck to paycheck to living deal to deal in the real estate space and saying, what the heck did I do? So that was my journey of finding the first deal. And then it helped me find a whole lot of other deals types that I never thought would even come up, but they did, from tenants to positions in real estate companies to figuring out like a huge need in the real estate space to then doing my own deals and being able to vet those deals. So that was just kind of the snowball effect for me. So hopefully that's helpful, because it was an awesome journey for, going on that ride for the last 10 years.
You hit on a ton, and guys, I hope that you are taking notes. I hope you got a pen and paper out, because there was so much gold in there, David, that I want to try to unpack a few things
for sure
from your story, because I know you might know a little bit about the deal finders, but you literally went through exactly what we found, and the reason that this is this is our calling is for the deal finders to go find the deals that are in your backyard. Guys, this is how I don't have the stats, but I'm going to say 95% of people start with the deals that are literally in their backyard. You found an agent, you said, that you networked with, you got to know that agent, and they found you a deal. There was multiple, and it was literally 5 minutes from home. Every one of our students that we've been teaching, we've taken students from zero to tons of deals, like hundreds of deals, right?
Yeah,
and so
that's awesome.
Those students, every one of them starts with the deal that is in arm's reach. It is someone they know. It's on their street. They drive by it every day. It's someone in their network.
That's awesome.
And it starts that snowball where you just went down that snowball. We don't know where it's going to take us, but after that first deal, you get past it. You get to doing one deal a month, right? Because now you learn it's real and this is a real life business. And then if you take this and you do consistently the same thing over and over, build that network, talk to people, talk to sellers, talk to people that know sellers, you start to get 2 deals a month, and then you got a business, right?
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. Just real quick, you were working with a company that did 850 deals in 5 years. What was their marketing? What did their marketing look like? This is way beyond the beginner, but this is curiosity.
So we had several channels. We had when I first went there, it was still recession period. 2014, 15, 16. Like when deals were still on the HUD and MLS a lot, and on auction sites. So we literally had virtual assistant teams that would put in 3,000 offers a week on HUD Home Store in Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois for us. So we were literally putting in 3,000 offers a week. Then the other ones were tax liens, tax auctions, and sheriff sales. So we had buyers go to the doorstep of these auctions, like the in-person auctions in our backyard, and then they would usually pick up 2 to 3 houses just from that, every time that they went. Then there were other ways too. We'd had a whole, direct to seller. So, the postcards and the mail and the advertising, that was most effective in our backyard. Like we had tried several different markets at the same time, like Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and the most effective was right in our backyard. So after we analyzed that, so that was very telling too, but that was just another channel. So those were some of the channels that brought the properties inside here. Let me tell another thing, though, because I learned so much. What to do, what not to do. I'm going to tell one thing not to do and one thing to do from that experience. Yeah. One thing to do is if you get the opportunity, if you're young or even if you, wherever you are in stage of life, and you work with another company, figure out how to run a business. Learn what not to do from the owner and what to do. What resonates with you, like what does not resonate with other people. Like that if he or she makes a decision, why did they make that decision and how did it affect the team as a whole? And is that was it a leadership quirk or like a personality trait, or was it just bad business ownership, or did they do something incredible, like why did everyone rally around him or her during that time? So that would be like watching that if you're in the middle of it, or if you're not, you have to read about it, in order to get that knowledge and to be that business owner, and to get that, and then also live it. Then you get to make your own mistakes and see that, oh shoot, that didn't work and everyone left. Why in the world did that happen? But something not to do is we were marketing in 5 different states and doing it through a bunch of different channels. And, so we were doing all the different marketing and then selling them in like 7 different ways. Literally wholesale, turnkey, fix and flip, wholesale, lease options, seller finance, and straight rental. So there was at least 7 exit strategies that we had at one time, which sounds amazing. It's like, oh, you get a property in and then you could dispose of it. Our overhead went from like 5 people to 25 people just to support the different exit strategies and the acquisition strategies. So we didn't really say, hey, how many people do we need in order to still maintain a profit and to not just kill us and pull us in different directions? So that lack of focus made us to where it sounds real cool. We did 850 deals, doing 30 deals a month, but it's not cool to spend 31. Like we're spending on 31 deals. So it's like that's where you have to focus. When you first get started, you might have to do a couple different types of deals to see what are you good at. How are you good at acquiring? How are you good at selling that? And then viciously attack that. I have a business coach and mentor who says, find the one marketing niche that you are really good at and attack it. Last year, I went out and spoke. I went out and traveled a lot. That was what I could do while I was still building this business, and it brought in multiple 7 figures last year. Because I focused on one thing, I was good at it and did it. And then the same thing when I sold the properties too. It was like I built a rental portfolio, and that was what I was good at. I liked finding those deals. I liked having cash flow. But then when I sold all those properties in order to build this business, it was like I sold those because I wanted to focus on one thing. I'm a very big one thing person where I don't want a bunch of distractions that pull my time away because I know I will not make the biggest impact. So there was just a couple things there, big lessons that I learned while I was there and finding those deals and doing the different types of transactions of like, here are some things to do, like watch the business and how does the business owner and the leadership and like how does that all interact and how could I one day either replicate that or not replicate it. And then number 2, like just being able to focus. Don't pull yourself in too many directions or the business will blow up because you're pulled in so many directions.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. That's so good, guys. I hope you are listening. And if you're listening to this and you made it this far, taking notes, rewind that. This is some serious real life experience, right? And so we always like to leave some actual steps for the folks trying to find the deal. And what you just said there in the beginning just blew my mind because this is what we talk about. And your company was actually doing it. So they got up to 850 deals. But they were still making offers, which cost how much money? Zero. They were still searching auction sites, which cost zero. And going down to the courthouse for tax sales, sheriff sales, whatever that is. Zero cost marketing. Guys, there are deals out there today still that cost $0 in marketing. There's so many people that are scared to get into this. Like, I don't have money to pay for postcards. Well, then don't do postcards, right? So, I want to tell you, just leave that with you guys because I want to save some time for David to talk a little bit about his book, because
Sure.
the reason I want him on here was because we went through last year. I read this book, I guess, a year and a half ago or whatever, and implemented this, tried to implement it in all of our business streams. We did one successfully, at least.
Nice.
And I'm looking at the review. We just, a couple days ago, did our review, and that business that we kept to the profit first model religiously. We made sure every deposit, this was an easier business to do it in, easy in, easy out. That is the one that hit the numbers. That is the one that provided profit, owner's pay, and tax savings.
Nice.
Covered all the expenses, everything. That is the one business line out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we did that made it, right?
Yeah.
So there's your testimony right there, David, that we talked about it. I laid out the plan. I think you have this sheet for free online, right?
I think so. There's several different ways. If you go through the book, there's a link in the book, I believe, and that's where that one is. So in the book, it gives this spreadsheet link, and so we filled it out. And basically, I'm going to let you kind of talk more about it. Yeah,
but
for sure.
That's the testimony of profit first in real estate works if you work the system. So tell me what that is in your words.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about.
So I'm going to be quick here because I know that we don't have much time. But profit first, when you boil it down, is that the problem that 90% plus of business owners have is that they do deals, they make sales, but feel broke. They feel like, hey, I'm making money. Where the heck is it all going? And Profit First really solves those problems of being able to know where every single dollar is going in your business. And it's a simple system built for the entrepreneur and not for your numbers people. The numbers people will be okay with it and they'll like it, but it's built for you to be able to put more money in your pocket, to be able to say this business is worth it in January just as much as December at the end of the year because I'm going to be able to take money out throughout the whole year and be a profitable business owner. Profit First is also the concept from Rich Dad Poor Dad. When Rich Dad Poor Dad says, Robert Kiyosaki says, pay yourself first, or The Richest Man in Babylon, a portion of all I have is mine to keep. Profit First puts a system behind those words. That's really what Profit First is. It's a system for the money, for the cash in your business, so that way you have more of it at every single week, day, month, year, making sure that profit is a priority. Because the business's purpose is to make a profit. There is nothing wrong or dirty about that. Your purpose might be different. It might be to build orphanages, or it might be to travel the world with your family, or the new car, whatever it might be for you. Your purpose might be different than just to make money. But the purpose of the business is to be profitable unless you're running a nonprofit. But even then, you want to have enough to be able to give and get the charities in and make sure you're still doing that. But a lot of for-profit companies and real estate investors become accidental nonprofits because they are literally spending everything that they're making above and beyond what they're making. So that's where I just saw a huge need that a lot of people, even though they have a bookkeeper, they have a CPA, because we get this all the time, like, aren't you just a bookkeeper or CPA? And it's like, no. The service that we provide, we're fractional CFOs, so part-time chief financial officers, a financial leader on the team to make sure you know, where is my money coming in from? Where's it going out to? And am I keeping any of it? Do I know what I'm making, spending, and keeping, and then affecting those numbers to make sure that I can continue to grow how I want to grow and be profitable? That's what Profit First is about. It's also the practical system is the envelope system, like Dave Ramsey talks about. So whether you love him or hate him, he has good principles, and I love the principle of giving every dollar a name. And so what you do instead of these envelopes, you set up different bank accounts and to call them different things. I go in depth into the book of what the accounts to open up and what they're called. But basically, you want accounts that are there that you open up. The ones that I'll tell you on this call, with the short amount of time we have, is profit, owner's comp, and owner's tax. Profit, which is icing on the cake, making sure your business is actually cash profitable with cash in an account that's above and beyond paying all your other expenses. Owner's comp is different. That's the actual money you pay yourself consistently, like on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis for the work you do in the business, making sure you're paid and that you can get out of your own rat race. And then the owner's taxes, making sure tax time is going to be April 15th every single year, or when, like if with your extensions, it might be September, October for you, Mr. or Miss Business Owner. So making sure when the taxes are due, you have tax money there to pay them if you owe taxes. So that's where those 3 accounts, just setting those up apart from your OPEX and your operational expenses, helps you to focus more on, do I actually have profit in my business? Can I actually pay myself? Can I actually have enough money for taxes so tax time isn't a stressful time for me? This is the one huge headache I have every year, or whatever you might be thinking when it comes tax time. And that's where setting those things up. We've had so many people go through this system now, over I think 300 businesses that we've worked with one-on-one to set up this system to make sure that they actually have profit. And we had one guy last year, he texted me, he filled up his Profit First accounts by June. So he had been on the system for 2 years, and with his 2 different businesses, rentals and fix and flips, he filled up all his Profit First accounts, the profit, owner's comp, owner's tax, and OPEX for the rest of the year by June. And that's meaning he didn't have to do any more deals. So it's like, this is just a way to make sure that if you're going to do your first deal, how do I manage the money from the first deal? Where do I put the dollars? That's the number one question we get from newer people in real estate is, I just closed my first $20,000 deal. Where do I put the cash? Because you might make in one deal what you made for the last 12 months. Let's say your first is a home run, $50,000 fix and flip or whatever, and it only took you 2.5 months, and you're like, holy crud, I have a $50,000 check here. This is like how much I made in the last year. You could have that same power, and a lot of people do not know how to go from 12 months of 50,000 to one check of 50,000 and what to do with it, and to make sure that they can create a business from that. So that's the mindset we're trying to give people, and that's what we're trying to transform business owners from just real estate investors and just, the wholesale deal and the grind and the hustle to business owners, thinking the mindset of, not only do I need to do the deal, I need to be very vigilant with my cash, so that way no matter what the market does, we will be okay, and I'm going to be able to grow. I'm going to be able to be profitable, and I'm going to be able to take care of opportunities and take advantage of them when other people might not. So if I had to boil down Profit First, it's a system for your cash. You set up bank accounts, and then you become a better manager of your money and a better steward of it, so you would keep more money at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yes. Obviously, the book frontwards and backwards. So
yes,
great
indeed.
synopsis. I think people who not even heard of it before will get what you just said. And it is a book that we recommend to people that, we teach people to get their first deals and start to get to financial freedom, starting with deal number 1, number 2, number 3, and then a system. This is one of the books that we recommend. By the time you've got something under contract, you better have this book so that, like you said, what's coming, like what's next when there's a big check.
Exactly. And you can build habits from your first deal. You can build good business and money habits from the first one, instead of having the bad habits that a lot of people come to us with, and they're like, oh shoot, I've got this huge money mess because I'm making $1 million and I've spent over $1 million. So it's like, have good habits from that first deal.
Yeah, and if you have those good habits in the beginning, you end up, you may not, you're like, oh, I got 50, but only get to use 10. Well, I guarantee you'll be farther ahead than the other guy.
Oh my gosh, yes.
60 when they get 50, right? So it makes you last longer. There's nothing, I can't remember the book that I just read, but basically it talks about the long tails. The companies that last, the businesses that last, those are the ones that are successful. It's not about getting one and then you're done. It's getting one, keeping it, investing it, and getting to 2, 3, 4. So I love the book. That's why I wanted you to come here and tell us a little bit about it. Can you tell us how people can find the book or find you?
Yeah. So if you go to simplecfo.com, that's where you can find the book, our podcast, which just tells a lot of stories like Andrew was talking about, like where they implement Profit First in one of their businesses and what happens to that. Yeah. So giving people encouragement. Then also, if you want to schedule a call with us, because like I said, we provide a part-time person on the team to be that financial leader. So if you're like, I do not want to wear the financial hat at all as the leader and manage the bookkeeper, the CPA, or I don't know how to manage the cash flow, what do I do? That's what we do. You can schedule no obligation call there. We just want to help you. If we're not the right fit, we've got great people in our network. So simplecfo.com, it's a one-stop shop for all those links.
Awesome, David. That's fantastic. I want to make sure people got that so that they can get a hold of you or find that book because, like I said, we recommend it to everybody.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, this has been an incredible podcast. I love your energy. I love your love for helping people. I know so many people that, we have connections, a lot of mutual connections that have either gone through your system or implemented it like I have on their own. And so I know you're helping people all over the country. So thank you for the time here. Do you have any parting words or anything to give our listeners?
Make profit a habit. Make it a habit. This is not a goal that at the end of the year that you should be, you have $100,000 in your profit account. That's a great goal. But make the profit habit your goal. What do you do today with the money that comes into an account? Make profit a habit.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Guys, we talk about making deal finding a habit, right? You've got to be that deal finder. You've got to change your mentality, and your heart has to know where you're going. Making profit the goal is amazing. Every time you do it, make it a habit. So that you can stay around and keep the business and grow the business, hire people, and affect your community. Guys, this has been an incredible podcast. Deal Finders, y'all, you know who we are. We help you find deals. But we want to teach you how to be deal finders. You can find all of this on YouTube or through other groups and other podcasts. And just listening to this podcast, there's tons of actual steps that help you do that. But if you want to join a community, a group that's going to help you get there, hold you accountable, and bring you along, then you want to go to dealfindersclub.com and check us out and see if we're a right fit for you. You can schedule a call there. But hey, we're going to see you on the next one. David, thank you so much, guys. We will see you out there while we're finding deals. Bye.